Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of Cowboy Joe Boo and all of the family of the Joe Boo Sports, Joe Boo everything. I appreciate all the love and all the support. And I'm here on the road driving. It's a little of a misty, rainy day, kind of dark and dreary and stuff. So maybe that's part of my mood here. I love driving. I love driving because it gives me a chance to clear my mind, okay? I can actually think clearly without the noise of the world and everything else. And I'm sitting here thinking about Jerry Jones saying, we couldn't afford Derrick Henry, okay? We couldn't afford Derrick Henry. And that bothers me, and I'm still kind of trying to figure out, is this the same Jerry Jones who, when he bought the Dallas Cowboys were losing $2 million a month. Now understand, $2 million a month doesn't sound like much now, but you think about when he bought that in 1988, we weren't talking about $1 billion. You know, the government would send $1 billion here or $1 billion. We were talking about the government literally sending $1 million in aid someplace. $1 million was a lot of money. And for buying a NFL franchise that was losing $2 million a month, he literally said that he basically begged, borrowed, and stole the money to scrap it up, to get it together, to buy it. I could look and say, you couldn't afford the Dallas Cowboys to buy them as an investment, right? But you found a way to get the money together because you looked at it and said, this is what I want, and I can make it a success, right? You're buying something that was losing $2 million a month, and you literally had to scrap up the money to get that. If you're saying you can't afford to pay players, and I don't know that Derrick Henry, it would have been the be-all, end-all, and so on, but your whole philosophy is we can't afford. If you can't afford to find the money to pay these players, then you can't afford to win. This philosophy of we're going to pay Dak, we're going to pay CD, and we're going to do more with less. I challenge you, Jerry, to show me some place, any team out there that is determined we're going to be the worst running team in football because we're going back to a guy who we deemed 2 years ago as his performance had fallen off and wasn't worth the money, think that he goes to New England for a year and now he's good enough for us to win without the other guy that was part of the equation. Anybody who thinks that's a great idea, I'm sorry, that's not. And the money that you're spending on Zeke is a nostalgia bring back. That's what that is. That is giving us something familiar to appease the masses. Because last year when you're watching the games and stuff, everybody would say, I want Zeke back. Man, I miss Zeke. Damn, every time Zeke would have a decent run, which is few and far between, everybody said, look, we shouldn't have gotten rid of Zeke. And here's the reality of football. I could say we shouldn't have gotten rid of Roger Staubach. But at this point, Roger Staubach is not viable. Neither is Tony Dorsett. Neither is Emmitt Smith. We all want the things that were winners or things that we have that were, familiar. But the reality is teams find money to win. Whether you like the Eagles or not, I don't. Okay, I got nothing against most of their fans and things. But they recognize that Saquon Barkley, we can't afford not to pay that guy. You know, people can say, oh, Jalen Hurts is better than Dak Prescott. No, he's not. No, he's not. And right now, it looks like the best investment made this offseason was Saquon going to the Eagles. Without Saquon, they're not winning any of those games. Let's be clear here. He's overcoming the idiot coaching calls and mistakes that they're making. And then you look at it and say, well, they could say, well, we can't afford Saquon because we got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. You know, we've got, of course, Lane Johnson that we're paying. And mind you, Jalen Hurts is not exactly chump change either. I don't hear them saying, we can't afford. When they have a player go down, they immediately try and figure out, where can I beg, borrow, and steal money to fit this thing in, because we can't afford it not to have that guy. So I am salty. You know, I'm going to buy me a big salt lick. You think, honey, is it okay if I buy a salt lick? Okay, a big salt lick because I'm salty.
You're salty.
I'm salty. Okay. Now they have different ones now.
Why don't we just make you a shirt that says I'm salty?
Okay, but they have. It's actually kind of. You might even like it. It might actually look good.
Salt lick.
Because I'm salty. Okay, but they had ones.
Lick it?
I might, but they have ones for horses that are the Himalayan block of salt, and it's got a rope on it. That about 8-pound ones. They look really kind of cool.
I will take a Himalayan.
Okay, so that's we're gonna get a Himalayan salt lick on a rope, okay? Because we're salty. I'm very salty, and I'm upset because I feel fooled, and I have nobody to blame but myself, because I always continue to buy into the hype of, you know, they said Mozzie. Oh, you know, Mozzie, first round draft pick. You know, he's going to be our starter when we got rid of Hankins. Hankins actually having a pretty good year right now. You know, we're going to be better because we got Mozzie. He's got a year to develop and everything else. And the reason why our defense couldn't hold up in the playoffs was Dan Quinn. You know, it's Dan Quinn's a bum. And we literally, including myself, who always liked Dan Quinn, turned on Dan Quinn and said he's an idiot. He's the one to blame. Blame Dan Quinn. And the reality is Dan Quinn was doing it with smoke and mirrors and getting production out of the defense. You can see what he's already doing with the Commanders. Now, I got people that are jumping all over me and saying, you know, Derek from Megabytes, Derek, sorry, bro. Jalen Daniels, great, incredible game last night. Incredible game. 2 TD passes, 254 yards, and 90% completions, which is great. Now, I don't know if Cincinnati is a good team anymore. Cincinnati is one of those teams that Joe Burrow had a great year, went to the Super Bowl. He's been anointed as one of the great quarterbacks out there. And it may be that he just had a peak of a couple of years, because last year and this year so far, Joe Burrow doesn't seem to be quite the same guy. It's kind of like Justin Herbert, who his sophomore year had an incredible year, and everybody's, he's a top 5 quarterback. He's better than Dak Prescott. He's, you know, miles, you know, ahead of him and everything else. And you look at it and say, the last 2 years and this year, not so much. Be that as it may, we all blame Dan Quinn and say that he's a bum. But here's what Jaden Daniels had last night. His team got takeaways, giving them the ball extra opportunities. They also rushed for over 100 yards. Now, he was 35 yards of that, but they had 3 rushing touchdowns. See, what they had last night, which is something that the Cowboys don't have because we can't afford it, is they had balance. We have no balance whatsoever. We can't run the football. We are literally the worst, okay, because we can't afford it. We can't run the football at all. And that's okay if you have multitude of weapons and you can pass it around, but we have really one stud weapon, and that is CeeDee Lamb, who, mind you, can check out under stress. And now, 2 of the last 3 home games we played, he's checked out. He's ranting on the sidelines. And for those out there that say, oh, Dak's only good because of CD, you know, when we were scoring those 19 points in the 4th quarter, CD was on the sidelines. So not only are we not balanced between running the football and passing the football because we can't afford it, we aren't even balanced in the passing game. We have one guy who is the go-to guy who gets the most separation, which is only 2.3 yards of separation, which is below the league average. That's a problem. And Jerry, I hear you. So I'm glad that we can afford the team we have, but you're losing the coach, you're losing the locker room, and you're losing the fan. And I hope you can afford that. Alrighty, good people, as always, you know I appreciate y'all. And I'm sure I'll have a lot more thoughts on the road here, because that's what I do. And I'm going to get my salt lick because I'm salty. Peace out.